my channel. Just wanted to pop on here today and chat with you about two books that I have read recently that are a little controversial in different ways. A little bit about my thoughts about reading these books. So I'm a little conflicted about which order to present them in, but it doesn't matter. I'll start with the book that I finished just today, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, the Golden Edition. This is a really great book. If I was into book acquisition right now, I'd probably go get a copy of this, but I don't need to do that because my library owns this book, and I just went one day and picked it up off the shelves, and it was a pretty new condition. The book is in pretty new condition. Like, I feel like maybe I'm the second or third person to have read it. You remember when library books had the little sticker on the back? You could see how many times the book had been checked out, so you would know how many times, you'd know how many readers there had been before you. They don't do that anymore, right? So in any case, it doesn't matter. Love this cover. The book is controversial because there are a lot of bad things that happen. There are a lot of bad things that happen to the characters in this book. Some of those situations are ameliorated, I guess, in the end of the book, but no spoilers. All the bad things that happen can't be ironed out just because bad things have an effect on people when they happen. So we kind of see that throughout. But what is really striking to me about this book is that we're reading about a kid and his family, and they're poor. They're living in very destitute circumstances in the beginning of the book. And so they're trying to get this opportunity that they know will change their lives. And there are several characters in here who are trying for that similar opportunity, but they don't really know what the life change is going to be, because we never know what things are going to be like until we experience them. You have an idea, you have these hopes, you have these desires, you have these dreams, but you never really know what it's going to be like until it happens. I remember when I was in high school, I had to write a paper on that idea exactly. Not going to expound too much on that, just to say that bad things happen in this book, and some of those things, no matter what good outcome happens later, you can't erase the bad things that happened before. And so there are some things in here that may trigger readers, but it's written for kids who are probably not thinking too deeply about some of those things. So there's that. But I'm sure there are places here where you could read this book and be triggered for something, or disturbed in a way that you might not want to be disturbed. But overall, I really enjoyed the story. The kind of, how could you apply this lesson to other places in your life kind of message in the story. So I like that. One little, not quite spoilers, not a spoiler. I'm not going to give away what happens in the story. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've read this. I'm pretty sure I'm the last adult to have read this book. But I was very excited to read it because I'm trying to read more of the books that I say I want to read and probably feel like I should have read by this point in my life. Trying to read more of those books. But in any case, what was I going to say? Small thing about something that happens in this book. One of the characters, I said that they were poor. Yeah, they're poor. Family's poor, and they don't eat. And so one of the things that's kind of disturbing is the contrast between near starvation and indulgence or overindulgence. The contrast is necessary for the book, for the plot, but it's also hard to read about a family, specifically a child who is hungry and who's starving. And yeah, but I also I'm understanding more now about the Roald Dahl controversy. because Roald Dahl's books have been being edited. Maybe edited is not the right word. It's not censored, but they've been changing some things to make the book a little bit more politically correct. And other books that I have read from him, I read Matilda earlier this year, I read James and the Giant Peach earlier this year, and I didn't always see the language that probably needed to be erased. In this one, I could see a couple of instances. Like there's a word that would be very derogatory to someone who's a member of that community. But when I was growing up, that's the word that I was taught to describe people from that community. And I feel like I heard members of that community use that word to describe themselves. So it's not a word that we've used now, but it's mentioned here. So yeah, I think my daughter is up. Let's go get her. So yeah, finished Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and now I gotta go. Hi, baby. It's controversial, maybe why I love that book. But yeah, I was really happy to have read it. So now we're going to send this book back to the library because Goodbye Things I learned from that book. As controversial as the book. Yes, darling. Okay. There's Anna. There's Anna. Oh, Anna's making her debut on YouTube. Hi, Anna. Anna, say hi to the friends.
Hi, friends.
And then we have this book, Goodbye Things by Fumiya Sasaki, which was translated from the Japanese by Eriko Sujita. And this book is controversial because for a book about minimalism, it's not minimalist. There are some places where this book could have been edited. Not that there are typos or anything, it's just like we could have had this book with some of the fat trimmed off, I guess is what I'm saying. For a book about minimalism and where the author talks about discarding all the sentimental things, he does seem to include some things here that probably didn't need to be included, like his devotion to the Apple brand. He talks about how having an iPhone kind of allows people to be minimalist because you could take pictures, take digital copies of physical things and get rid of the physical items. And that is true to a certain extent. He talks about, getting rid of sentimental things and taking pictures of them. And I feel like that is fine in some places, but there is a place where you could go a little bit too far. So here he talks about a letter map combo thing that his mom gave to him when he was leaving home. And he took a picture of it years later, and then discarded the original item, which I'm impressed that he took the picture. But like there are things that I have found hard to let go of, and taking a picture of it so you can preserve the memory sometimes makes it a lot easier to get rid of the item. But I feel like there are places where you can go too far with that. So this author, I think, is a radical minimalist. He's extreme minimalist. And when he talks about his life before minimalism, I think I understand maybe why he needed to get rid of some of the things, get rid of all the things, and then kind of start over. Because sometimes you have to go to rock bottom. You have to go to the extreme so you can kind of figure out where you want to settle naturally, unencumbered by the stuff, pun intended. So his author bio on the back, and this is the author right here. He's a young Japanese man, and his author bio says he is the former co-editor-in-chief of Wani Books, and he lives in a 215 square foot apartment in Tokyo. 215 square foot, furnished with a small wooden box, a desk, and a roll-up futon pad. And that's fine for him. It is not where I want to be. That is not my goal. That is not my aspiration. I don't want to live in a small space with almost nothing. A small wooden box, a desk, and a roll-up futon pad. So What I like about the book is he shares pictures right at the beginning, first page. So you can decide if this is a book that you want to read, like if this is where you want to be. So maximalist and minimalist. And I gotta tell you, maximalist looks way more comfy, looks way more like where I want to be. Minimalism, according to this picture, is a mattress or a futon on the floor and a little table. Yes, darling, you will come. Yeah, I like my books. I like my stuff. I like having the little cozy. Yes, baby. I'm making a video. I'm making a video so people can watch me on YouTube, like how you watch your friends on YouTube. Got rid of his mattress, got rid of his table, got rid of his TV. He says, I often feel like I'm a Zen monk in training. Like before, is more of my ideal than this is. So here's another example. Maximalist life. That's his bookshelf, his bookshelves. And model apartment for minimalist. Nothing. So, you know, I like that this is at the front. These pictures are not in the middle somewhere where you're trying to figure out how much of this book is applicable to me. I don't want my closet to look like this, but I also don't want my closet to look like it did a couple of months ago, where I couldn't get into the closet, couldn't get in to reach my stuff because there was so much stuff in front of it. So there are some things about this book that I love. I like that he has 55 tips on becoming a minimalist, 55 tips that you can incorporate to help you say goodbye to your things. And in the book, he discusses all 55 things on the list. So each page, I don't know if you can see this, each page is a discussion of one of those 55 things. And you know, you could read about, that's the golf, that's the mini golf. Do you want me to take you down and so you could play it? Alright, so come. You know, he talks about his experience with each of these tips or steps and how he was able to get rid of some of his possessions. Also like that the steps or tips are recapped in the back. So it's a three-page list that you could essentially rip out of the book and discard the rest of the book when you've decided that the book is no longer for you because you've achieved what you want to achieve or you've taken the lessons that you want to. And so a book like this, for me, when I read it, I look for the tips that are useful to me. So there are some things in here that he talked about that are applicable to me, that are inspiring to me. And then there are some things that are just going to be left in the book for the next person to read and interact with the book as they see fit, because not everything in here is for me. So on the list, he has number 7, discard something right now. Number 9, start with things that are clearly junk. And that's a tip that I have learned from other places. I follow this YouTuber called Minimal Mom who advocates for walking through your space every so often with a garbage bag and picking up things that are just clearly junk. Nobody's going to miss them if you throw them away, like yesterday's newspaper, or you know, the tag from your clothes, you took it off and just kind of left it around, and nobody's going to miss it if you take it away. You can start with that and start to declutter your space right there. Minimize anything you have in multiples. When my husband and I got together, we had a lot of things that I had and he had, and we didn't need 2 things. We didn't need 2 of the same thing, and we just got, over the course of time, we got rid of some of those things. Like I had a cast iron pot, he had a cast iron pot. His was a better quality than mine, so we got rid of mine. Get rid of it if you haven't used it in a year. For me, it was more like 3 years or 5 years. If I haven't used it since we got married, if I haven't used it since I had my daughter and now she's older, it's time to get rid of some of those things. So there are things on the list that you could definitely get rid of, and it may be freeing for you to get rid of those things. Other things that he talks about, like using one towel. He only has one towel, and he uses that towel to dry his body as well as to dry his dish when he is eating. That's extreme for me, and I never never aspire to be there. Like, that is not minimalism that is attractive. And I think if you focus on some of those things that appear through the book, like he talks about people who are radical minimalists who only have one piece of cloth, and they use it to wrap their bodies, and they use it to do anything that they need a piece of cloth for. If you focus on that, then it's a reason to not read the book. But there are so many helpful things that are in this book, helpful tips to help you if you want to just get started. So there's a spectrum between clutter and radical minimalism, and you have to decide where on that spectrum you want to be and what you need to do to get there. So I think there are some very useful tips in this book, very useful things to read. Don't get lost in the other things is what I'm saying. Don't get lost in the weeds or lack of weeds, since this is a book about minimalism. So yeah, 2 books that are probably a little controversial that I read recently. Thank you so much to Vernitra, who passed along a recommendation from her co-worker at the library and got me to pick up this book, Goodbye Things by Fumiya Sasaki, translated from the Japanese by Eriko Sujita. So yeah, 2 books that I read recently. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read either of them and what your thoughts were. And until we come back for another video, happy reading. You want to say bye? Come. Say bye.
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 I love you. Thank you.
Fun.